TT Score was initially designed at Norensic, which was a startup company in Chicago. We started off with a couple of mid-size FCM pilot customers, and they were under investigation for spoofing. And they hired us essentially to build a model to identify and show that activity and show them what it looked like. We operated as a startup for about a year and a half, and then TT acquired us in October of 2017. That really did come from David Wiederhorn's consulting firm. So he was doing consulting and designing trading algorithms for people. And one of them approached him about designing the algorithm to look at the data and determine if spoofing had occurred, if he could do that. And he did. That was the initial, I would say, alpha product that turned into Norensic. That was what he was hired to do. And then he decided, I can build a whole company around this because Dodd-Frank had just been passed. Spoofing was becoming the hot topic. Michael Kosia's case was just starting to come on the radar. And so he said, I'm going to build this surveillance company, not just have this one, piece of my consulting company. When Score was at Norensic, it was a standalone piece of software that could be implemented at a trading firm or a bank's servers. So we had to take that and then integrate it right onto the new TT platform. So it's just now another app on the toolbar that traders or firms can select for compliance. And it was a pretty big technological lift to do that. We have some firms that are small that don't have compliance officers, and then they just have their own traders using it in the firm to monitor their own activity. But the more common scenario is a proprietary trading firm that has a compliance department that has some TT screens, and we can allow them to look at that and then use other fixed connections and data feeds to get all of their data onto Score for them to view it. So it's more usually kind of the traditional compliance department using Score. Futures, options on futures, spreads. We do cryptocurrencies. As you know, TT writes to a couple of crypto markets, so we know how to handle that asset class. Equities and equity options will be the next step later this year. The models wouldn't need much adjustment. It's just getting that data into the database where right now we're primarily housing futures and then adding in another new asset class to that. Because we use the same infrastructure as the entire TT platform, which right now, as you know, is really futures and crypto trading. We've had customers who voluntarily provide us with data from investigations. Some of them have become adjudicated matters. And what we can do is go through and label that data. And we label it as positive or negative. Then we can do this learning process, supervised learning, to train the model to recognize the best mathematical vectors or parameters, if you will, to identifying these patterns. So that's really how the model is trained and how it measures and delivers the score on the scale from 0 to 100. It's all in this mathematical similarity. And then we present that in Score in what we call clusters. And that's the segments of a trader's activity and what score those segments are receiving from the model so that you have a hierarchy for your workflow. So false positives are a problem that has plagued surveillances for as long as I can, have been using them. And the issue is that when you're dealing with parameter-based surveillance, the only way to reduce false positives is to tighten up your parameters and change them to reduce those false positives that you're receiving. But the problem with that is then you start to potentially create false negatives, and you're missing activity that's going to open you up to regulatory scrutiny. So with our approach, there is no parameter to tune. The model is measuring everything subjectively against that regulatory case data and applying its score on the sliding scale. So that is how we address it, in the sense that we say review everything that's 75 and above. Nothing below a 75. You can look at it. You can see if it's something you do want to look at it. So you have access to it, but you want to focus on the highest scores first. We look at wash trades. We look at messaging rates. We want to know whether or not somebody might be quote stuffing or if there's a malfunctioning algorithm. Momentum ignition is an interesting pattern of manipulation where it's not the same as spoofing, because you may actually be wanting to get filled, but you're pushing the price. You're using aggressive orders to spark price movements, influencing other market participants in order to get beneficial fills for you. That's still potentially manipulation. It's not spoofing because you're intending to get filled, but it's still price manipulation potentially. And then we look at marking the close. That's our newest model, is marking the close, where you're looking to see whether or not somebody's potentially manipulating the price during the settlement period to take advantage of, some people will do that at the end of a week or a month to make their portfolio look better. We are a hosted solution with no parameters. So that means that the minute that you run your data through SCORE, you get results. The barrier to surveillance is the hardware necessary, the servers, the implementation time, the amount of time it takes to set the parameters for all of the models. Usually it takes 4, 6 months or more. You have to hire a consulting firm to come in and help you get your surveillance set up. We're telling you, eliminate all of that. We can get you up and running from day one almost, and you'll be looking at your results right away.